The man in the lobby. The elevator doors open like a curtain, and the lobby of the Halston Crown residences flooded the city's morning light onto polished marble. Everything in the building was designed to whisper power, gold trim, soft jazz, the faint scent of expensive flowers that never wilted. But the sound that stopped people mid-step wasn't jazz. It was a cry, small, sharp, panicked, like a bird trapped behind glass. Heads turned. A woman in a winter coat struggled at the base of the staircase. One hand clawed for the rail. The other clutched a folded wheelchair that looked too light, too fragile for what it had to carry. Beside her, a little girl sat on the bottom step, her legs angled awkwardly, her cheeks wet, her breath coming in frightened hiccups. "Mom, it hurts," the girl whispered, voice breaking. I can't do it." The woman's face was tight with exhaustion and humiliation. She glanced around at the gawking residents with their tailored suits and luxury bags. She seemed to shrink under their eyes. "Please," she said to no one and everyone at once. Just give us a minute." A man in a gray suit, one of the building's concierge staff, stepped forward, but stopped when a resident raised a hand like he was swatting a fly. "Not here," the resident said, disgusted. "This is the main entrance." Another woman muttered, "There's a service elevator." The mother swallowed, jaw trembling. "It's out," she said quietly. "They said it's been out for weeks." A soft chorus of annoyance rose, the kind that people use when their lives were inconvenienced by someone else's pain. Then the doorman moved. His name tag said Malik in clean capital letters. He wasn't tall in a way that demanded attention. He wasn't loud, but he had that calm, grounded presence that made you feel like he saw everything without ever needing to prove it. He walked past the murmurs, past the stairs. He knelt beside the girl, like her tears were the most important thing in the room. "Hey," Malik said, voice gentle. "What's your name, superstar?" The girl sniffed, eyes wide. "Alina." "That's a strong name," Malik said, and smiled like he meant it. "Lena, I'm Malik. I work here, and I've got a question for you." She blinked. "W what?" "Do you trust me?" Malik asked. Her mother's eyes flashed with fear. "Sir, we're fine." Malik looked up at her, respectful, steady. "Ma'am, I hear you, but I also see she's hurting. The elevator's out. Those stairs are not fair. Let me help." A man in a designer coat scoffed. "This is not your job." Malik didn't even turn. "Maybe not," he said simply, "but it's the right thing." He slipped off his gloves, placed them neatly beside the wheelchair, and shifted his posture so Lena could see he wasn't rushed. He wasn't trying to handle her. He was asking permission with his whole body. "I can carry you up," he told Lena. "Slow and safe. I'll hold you like my little cousins when they fell asleep in my arms. No bouncing. No sudden moves. You tell me if anything hurts, okay?" Lena's breath shuddered. I'm heavy." Malik chuckled softly. "Girl, I carried 3 grocery bags and a stubborn suitcase last night. You think you can beat that?" A tiny laugh escaped her, surprising even herself. Her mother's eyes filled, the shame in them mixing with a desperate gratitude she didn't want to admit. "Please," she whispered. "Just be careful." "Always," Malik promised. He guided Lena's arms around his shoulders, braced his stance, and lifted her with practiced strength. No strain, no show, just control. He rose as if he was lifting a fragile treasure, not a child. The lobby fell quiet. Malik took the first step, then the second. Slowly, carefully, he climbed the staircase that curved like a crown around the lobby. Lena's cheek rested against his shoulder. Her sobs softened into shaky breaths. Halfway up, Malik spoke softly, like telling a secret. "You know something, Lena?" "What?" she murmured. "Sometimes the world puts stairs in front of people like it's a test," Malik said. "But the stairs don't get to decide who you are. You do." Lena's small fingers tightened on his jacket. "I hate the stairs." "I do too," Malik said. "But I don't hate you. And I don't hate your mom. And I don't hate what you need." The mother stood below, clutching the wheelchair and watching, lips parted. She looked like she was seeing kindness for the first time in a long time. At the top of the stairs, Malik paused so Lena could breathe. Down below, someone finally found their voice. "This is ridiculous," a man muttered. "What if she sues?" "Liability." Another replied, "He's trying to be a hero." Malik didn't respond. He just continued. The glass doors at the top opened into the mezzanine hallway. Quieter, carpeted, lined with art that cost more than most people's homes. Malik carried Lena toward the apartments. "What floor?" he asked. 27. The mother called up, voice cracking. "Unit 27B. Malik nodded and started toward the elevators, only to stop, because standing near the concierge desk, half hidden behind a column of marble, was a man in a tailored black coat. His hair was silver at the temples. His jaw was sharp with control. He looked like someone who had never once been told no by the world. His name was known to every business channel and every investor newsletter. Graham Whitmore, billionaire CEO of Whitmore Holdings, owner of half the city skyline, and a man who didn't come to his own building unless something big was happening. Graham's eyes weren't on the staircase. They were on Malik, on the way Malik held Lena, careful, steady, protective. On Malik's face, focused, kind, unafraid. Graham's expression tightened like he'd been hit by a memory he didn't want. He took a step forward without meaning to. Malik noticed him and paused out of courtesy. "Good morning, sir." Graham didn't answer immediately. His gaze slid to Lena. The child looked up at the billionaire with a tired curiosity, then looked back at Malik like Malik was the only safe thing in the room. Graham's throat moved. Who is she?" Malik kept his voice even. "Her name is Lena. The elevator's down again. I'm taking her up." Graham's eyes flashed toward the concierge desk. "The elevator has been down for weeks?" A concierge stammered. We put in the work order, Mr. Whitmore." Graham's stare could cut glass. "And you let a child crawl upstairs?" The concierge swallowed. "We told them to use the service entrance." Malik's jaw tightened, but he didn't let anger take over. He adjusted Lena's weight gently so she wouldn't slip. "Sir," he said calmly, "I'm just trying to get her home." Graham stepped closer, close enough now that Malik could see the man's eyes weren't cold. They were shaken. "What's your name?" Graham asked. Malik blinked. "Malik." Graham repeated it like tasting it. "Malik." He looked at Malik's face, really looked, and something broke through his billionaire composure. A flicker of recognition, like a puzzle piece sliding into place, and terrify him at the same time. "You," Graham whispered, almost to himself. "No, that's not possible." Malik frowned. "Sir." Graham's voice went tight. "Where are you from, Malik?" Malik hesitated, not because he was ashamed, because he'd learned that questions like that weren't always innocent. "South Side," he said carefully. "Raised by my grandmother." Graham's hand lifted slightly, as if he wanted to touch Malik's face and confirm something, then dropped like he was afraid of what his own body wanted. "What's your last name?" Graham asked, now almost pleading. Malik's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Graham's lips parted, but no words came. His gaze fell to Malik's neck, and Malik instinctively shifted, the collar of his uniform pulling slightly, just enough for a thin chain to glint, just enough for the edge of a small pendant to show. A worn silver charm shaped like a tiny compass. Graham's breath caught. His face went pale in a way money couldn't fix. "That," Graham said hoarsely. "Where did you get that?" Malik's hand went to the pendant on instinct, protective. "It was my mother's," he said. "It's all I have left of her." Graham stared like he'd been stabbed by the sentence. "Your mother?" he echoed. "What was her name?" Malik's voice softened, careful but firm. "Amina." The lobby, already quiet, turned into a vacuum. Even the jazz seemed to fade. Graham Whitmore swayed slightly, like the marble beneath him had shifted. "Amina," he whispered, eyes shining. "No, no, no." Malik's expression hardened. "Sir, I don't know you. I'm going to take this child upstairs." Graham's eyes snapped up, desperate. "Wait." Malik didn't move. Lena clung tighter. Graham swallowed, his voice trembling with something that sounded dangerously like regret. I knew someone named Amina, he said. A long time ago. Malik's stare sharpened. Lots of people knew an Amina. Graham's jaw clenched. Not like this. He took a breath. And for the first time in his life, he looked like a man who couldn't buy the next sentence. Then he said it anyway. I think, Graham whispered, voice cracking, I think you might be my son. Malik froze. Lena's eyes widened. The mother below the stairs stopped breathing. And the whole building, every polished surface, every expensive painting, every person who just looked away from suffering, felt suddenly too small to hold what had just been spoken. Malik's arms tightened around Lena automatically, protective, like the world might lunge at them. You're lying, Malik said quietly. Graham's voice was raw. I wish I was. Malik's jaw trembled, anger rising like heat. I don't know you. I don't care who you are. Don't you ever. Graham stepped closer, hands open, not trying to dominate, just trying to reach. Let me explain. Malik's eyes burned. Explain what? Explain where you were? Explain why my mother died alone? Explain why I grew up watching my grandmother cry into a sink full of dishes. Graham flinched like Malik's words were blows. Malik took a slow breath through his nose. Then he looked down at Lena's trembling face and forced his rage to wait. Not here, Malik said tightly. Not in front of her. Graham nodded quickly, grateful for any mercy. Of course. You're right. Malik swallowed hard. I'm taking her home. I'll go with you, Graham said. Malik's eyes flashed. No. Graham's voice softened. Then let me do something. Please. For her. Malik hesitated. Lena whispered. Malik? I'm scared. I got you, Malik murmured, and kissed the top of her head with gentle certainty. He looked back at Graham. Fix the elevator, Malik said coldly. Today. Graham's eyes snapped to the concierge. Call maintenance. Call every contractor. Pay triple. I don't care. That elevator is fixed within hours. The concierge scrambled. Malik started toward the elevator with Lena in his arms. The mother hurried behind at the wheelchair, still dazed, still watching the billionaire like he might vanish if she blinked. At the elevator, Malik pressed a button. They waited. The doors opened. Malik stepped in with Lena, careful, steady. The mother followed. Just before the doors closed, Graham spoke, voice low, urgent, vulnerable in a way that didn't fit his wealth. Malik, he said, please don't disappear again. Not like she did. Malik's eyes locked with his. There was pain there, history, a storm of questions Malik had buried under years of survival. The elevator doors began to slide shut. Malik didn't answer, but his hand tightened around the compass pendant. And as the doors closed, Malik's voice finally cut through, sharp as truth. If you're really who you say you are, he said, then you're going to regret the day you left us. The doors sealed. Graham Whitmore stood alone in the lobby, staring at his own reflection in the marble, looking, for the first time, like a man who built an empire to outrun a single mistake. And above him, inside the elevator, Malik's heart pounded like a warning drum. Because if Graham was telling the truth, then Malik's entire life had been a lie someone paid to keep buried. And Malik was about to find out who helped bury it. The sealed files. The elevator rose with soft hum, but inside it, everything felt loud. Malik stood perfectly still. Lena's small body curled against his chest like she belonged there, like she had always belonged there. Her breathing had finally slowed, but her fingers still gripped his jacket, as if the world might tip sideways if she let go. Across from him, Lena's mother, Marisol, clutched the folded wheelchair so tightly her knuckles looked drained of color. Her eyes weren't on Malik anymore. They were on the stainless steel elevator wall, where her reflection trembled like a confession. Malik's voice came out controlled, but it wasn't calm. It was the kind of control a man uses when he's trying not to shatter. What did you just say? He asked again. Say it slow. Marisol swallowed. I shouldn't have. Slow, Malik repeated, firmer. The elevator passed the 10th floor. The numbers blinked like a countdown. Marisol took a shaky breath. My sister used to work at a hospital. Mercy Grove. Not as a doctor. Records. Billing. She told me years ago there was a file sealed on request. Not court sealed. Money sealed. The name attached to it was Whitmore. Malik's jaw tightened. You're guessing. I'm not. Marisol's voice cracked, because the patient name was Amina, and there was a note about a birth, a complication, and then a transfer. Malik's grip on Lena shifted. He didn't squeeze her. He anchored her, like if he held her steady enough. The truth might stop moving too. Why are you telling me this now? He demanded. Marisol's eyes filled. Because I saw his face downstairs when you said her name. That wasn't a stranger's face. That was a man seeing a ghost. The elevator dinged at 27. The door slid open onto a hallway, so quiet it felt like a museum. Soft carpet, recessed lighting, framed art that looked too expensive to be real. Marisol led the way to 27B. Her hands shook so badly, she fumbled the key. Lena stirred and whimpered. I got you, Malik whispered, rocking her gently. He kept his voice warm for Lena, even while something colder and older burned inside him. The door finally opened. Inside, the apartment was modest compared to the building's reputation. Clean but not lavish. A small living room. A stack of medical bills on the counter. A winter coat hanging on a hook like it had been thrown there after a long day of fighting. Marisol moved quickly. Her room's this way. Malik followed. Lena's bedroom had a soft nightlight shaped like a moon, a bookshelf with worn children's novels, and drawings taped to the wall, stick figure family portraits. A castle, a staircase with a big red X over it. Malik's throat tightened. He laid Lena gently on the bed, moving with careful precision. Marisol pulled the blanket up and brushed Lena's hair back. You were brave, Malik told Lena. Lena's eyes fluttered open. Are you coming back? The question hit him harder than any punch. Yes, Malik said without thinking. If you want me to. Lena nodded sleepily. Okay. Her eyelids fell. Marisol stepped out into the hallway and closed the bedroom door softly behind them. Then she turned to Malik, and her face crumpled in a way adults hate, letting anyone see. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry you got dragged into this. But you didn't have to help us. You could have walked away like everyone else. Malik stared at the carpet. I know what it feels like to need help and watch people pretend they don't see you. Marisol's lips trembled. The building management keeps saying they'll fix the elevator. They kept telling you to use the service entrance, Malik finished, voice turning sharp. Like your child is something to hide. Marisol looked down, ashamed. Yes. Malik took a long breath. Where's the bills? He asked suddenly. Marisol blinked. What? The stack, Malik said. The ones I saw on the counter. Marisol hesitated, then led him back into the kitchen. The bills sat like a pile of threats. Clinic charges, therapy sessions, equipment, denials, late fees. Malik picked one up, read it, and felt his chest tighten. The numbers looked like a wall. You work? Malik asked. Marisol nodded. 2 jobs. Remote support in the day. Cleaning offices at night. My ex. She stopped, swallowed. He left when Lena was diagnosed. Said he couldn't live like this. Malik's nostrils flared. Coward. Marisol didn't argue. I'm just trying to keep her in therapy. Trying to keep her smiling. Malik stared at the bills again, then set them down carefully, like they might explode. A knock sounded at the door. Both of them froze. Marisol's eyes widened. Who would? Another knock. Firmer. Malik's body moved before his brain finished thinking. He stepped between Marisol and the door. Stay back, he murmured. Marisol whispered, Malik, please. He opened the door a crack. And there he was. Graham Whitmore stood in the hallway. Coat still perfect, hair still precise. But his eyes weren't. His eyes looked like a man who hadn't slept in years, and suddenly remembered why. 2 security men lingered farther down the hall, pretending they weren't watching. Malik's voice came out low. Dangerous. You got guts. Graham didn't smile. I didn't come to fight. You came to invade, Malik replied. You don't get to show up like you're entitled to my air. Graham nodded slowly, as if he accepted the insult as payment. You're right. Marisol stepped into view behind Malik. Her voice shook. Mr. Whitmore, you can't just come up here. I can, Graham said quietly, then corrected himself. I shouldn't, but I needed to speak to him before he disappears. Malik laughed once, no humor in it. Disappear? You think I'm the one who disappears? You don't even know what that word means. Graham swallowed. Malik's hand went to the chain under his collar. The compass pressed against his skin like a heartbeat. Say what you came to say, Malik snapped. And then get out. Graham's gaze flicked toward the bedroom door. Is the child okay? Marisol stiffened. She's asleep. Graham nodded, guilt flashing. Good. Then his eyes returned to Malik. That pendant, he said softly. I've seen it before. Malik's voice went cold. It was my mother's. Don't act like you deserve to know anything about it. Graham's throat worked. Amina used to wear it every day. She said it reminded her that she could find her way back. Malik's stomach twisted. Marisol stared at Graham, shocked. You really didn't know her. Graham's eyes glistened. I did. Malik's voice shook with contained fury. Then where were you? Graham looked down at the carpet like the pattern might save him. I was a coward. The words hit the hallway like a slap. Graham lifted his eyes again. I was young. I was climbing. I was surrounded by people who told me love was a distraction and that my name was bigger than my heart. Malik barked a bitter laugh. So you chose your name. Graham flinched. Yes. Marisol whispered. What happened to her? Graham's jaw clenched. I tried to go back. I did. But when I finally had the courage, she was gone. Malik stepped forward. Gone where? Dead? Missing? You're a billionaire. Don't tell me you can find her. Graham's face tightened. I didn't say I couldn't. Malik's eyes narrowed. Then you didn't want to. Graham inhaled like he was about to confess something that might destroy him. I looked, he said hoarsely. But every time I got close, someone moved her. Records were wiped. Addresses changed. There were barriers. Malik's voice rose. Convenient. It wasn't convenient. Graham snapped, and the emotion startled even him. He lowered his voice immediately. It wasn't, because I finally found out why. Malik's chest tightened. Why? Graham stared at him, and it felt like the hallway got smaller. My father, Graham said, he found out about Amina, about the pregnancy. About you? Marisol gasped softly. Malik didn't. He couldn't. His body felt too still, like it had turned to stone. Graham continued, voice breaking. He said you would ruin the family name. He said my future would collapse. He said he'd handle it. Malik's lips barely moved. Handle it how? Graham's eyes flooded. He paid people. He threatened people. He used influence. He made sure Amina's medical records were sealed. He made sure I couldn't access anything without triggering lawyers and scandal. Marisol's hand flew to her mouth. Malik's ears rang. He could hear his grandmother's voice from years ago, telling him some doors weren't locked by keys, but by power. Malik spoke through clenched teeth. So you're telling me your father erased my mother? Graham nodded, tears slipping free. Yes. Malik stared at him. This billionaire who owned everything, now standing in a hallway like a man who owned nothing but regret. You came here, Malik said, voice low, to confess that your family destroyed mine. Graham's shoulders shook. I came here because I saw you carrying that child, and I realized you were everything I should have been, and I don't deserve a second chance, but you want one. Malik cut in. Graham nodded, voice barely a whisper. Yes. Malik stepped closer until they were almost nose to nose. You don't get to want, Malik hissed. Not from me. Graham's lips trembled. Then let me earn it. Malik's eyes were wet now, but his voice stayed sharp. You can't earn back years. Graham's gaze fell again. I know. Silence. Then Malik asked a question that had lived in his bones since he was a kid staring at a family tree with missing branches. How do I know you're not lying? Malik demanded. Graham lifted his hand slowly, like surrender. You don't. Not yet. Malik's laugh was raw. So what? You expect me to just believe the billionaire who shows up when he feels guilty? Graham's voice strengthened. No, I expect you to test me, to hate me, to scream at me if you need to. But I'm not leaving again. Malik's eyes flashed. You don't get to decide when you stay. Graham nodded. You're right. You decide. Marisol looked between them, frightened. Please, not in front of my daughter. Malik took a breath and forced his anger down, but it didn't disappear. It just sank deeper, becoming heavier. Graham turned toward Marisol, his voice respectful. I'm sorry you've been treated like your child doesn't belong. That end today. Marisol stared. What does that mean? Graham's jaw tightened. It means the elevator will be fixed by noon. And if it isn't, the entire management company will be replaced by sunset. Marisol blinked, stunned. Graham looked back to Malik. And it means I need you to come with me. Malik's eyes narrowed. To where? Graham's voice lowered. To Mercy Grove Hospital. Malik's blood turned cold. Why? Graham swallowed. Because my father is dying, and he left something behind. Malik's heart hammered. What? Graham hesitated, then said it. A sealed file, he whispered, with your name on it. Malik's breath caught. Marisol's voice shook. You said it was sealed. It was, Graham said. But my father's lawyer called me this morning. He said the file was going to be transferred to a private archive today. Malik's voice went sharp. So you rushed here because you're scared I'll find out the truth without you. Graham didn't deny it. Yes. Malik stepped back, shaking his head, laughter spilling out like pain. Unbelievable. Graham's eyes pleaded. Come with me, Malik. If I'm lying, you walk away. If I'm telling the truth, then you finally get answers. Malik stared at him for a long moment, chest rising and falling. Then he looked toward Lena's bedroom door. He thought of her small voice asking if he'd come back. He thought of his grandmother's tired hands. He thought of his mother's name being spoken by the richest man in the building like it was a wound he'd finally stopped hiding. Malik turned back to Graham, eyes blazing. I'm not going for you, Malik said. I'm going for my mother. Graham nodded, swallowing tears. That's all I'm asking. Malik's voice dropped to a vowel. But understand this. If that file proves you had a choice and you still let her suffer, then money won't protect you from what I'll do next. Graham's face tightened. I accept that. Malik stepped into the hallway, closing Marisol's door gently behind him. As he walked with Graham toward the elevator, the security men straightened, ready to move. Malik glanced at them and said quietly, Tell them to stay back. I'm not your prisoner. Graham lifted a hand. Stay back, he ordered. They obeyed instantly. The elevator doors opened, and as Malik stepped inside beside Graham Whitmore, he realized something terrifying. For the first time in his life, he was about to face the people who wrote his pain into paperwork. And paperwork, Malik knew, could hide monsters. The woman who raised him. The elevator didn't feel like it was moving anymore. Malik stared straight ahead, jaw locked so tight it ached. Graham's last words echoed inside his skull, like a gunshot that refused to fade. Was your grandmother. For a moment, Malik honestly thought he might be mishearing things, like his mind had finally cracked under the weight of everything and started inventing new ways to hurt him. That's not possible, Malik said flatly. Graham stood beside him, phone still in his hand, knuckles white. I wish I was wrong. Malik turned slowly. The air between them felt heavy, charged. My grandmother doesn't even know how to use email, Malik said. She barely trusts ATMs. You're telling me she signed out a sealed hospital file protected by billionaire lawyers. Graham shook his head. Not personally. The lawyer said she authorized it. Malik laughed, sharp, bitter. Authorized how? Graham hesitated. She showed up in person, with documentation. The elevator dinged at the lobby. The door slid open. Malik stepped out first, his movement stiff, mechanical. The same marble floor. the same gold trim. But nothing looked the same anymore. It all felt fake, like a stage built to distract people from what was really happening underneath. Graham followed, struggling to keep up. "Where is it?" Malik demanded. "The file?" Graham asked. "My grandmother—" Malik snapped. Graham swallowed. "Mercy Grove Hospital. She's still there. The lawyer said she refused to leave until she had it in her hands." Malik's chest tightened painfully. "Then what are we standing around for?" They moved fast. Outside, a black car waited, engine already running. The driver opened the door immediately. Malik stopped short. "I'm not riding like this," he said. "I don't need the whole world thinking I belong to you." Graham met his eyes. "Then take your own car." Malik scoffed. "I don't have one." Graham hesitated, then did something Malik didn't expect. He took off his coat and handed it to the driver. "Give him the keys." The driver froze. "Sir." "Now," Graham said. The driver placed the keys in Malik's hand. Malik looked at them, then at Graham. "This doesn't mean anything." Graham nodded. "I know." They got into separate cars. The city blurred past Malik's window as he drove. Traffic lights, pedestrians, storefronts. All the ordinary life he'd been walking through for years, unaware of how many truths had been buried just beneath it. His phone buzzed. A text from Marisol. "Is Lena okay without you?" Malik stared at the screen, then typed back, "I'll be back. I promise." He sent it before he could second-guess himself. Mercy Grove Hospital rose ahead. Older brick building, slightly worn, like it had seen too many secrets and learned to keep them quiet. Malik parked hard and got out. Inside, the air smelled like disinfectant and old memories. The kind of place where lives change quietly without permission. Graham caught up to him near the reception desk. "She's in records," Graham said. "Basement level." Malik didn't wait. They took the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. At the bottom, the hallway narrowed, lights buzzing softly overhead. A sign read, "Medical records. Authorized personnel only." Voices echoed from behind the door. One of them was familiar. Too familiar. "You can't tell me no," the woman's voice said, sharp with age and fire. "I buried my daughter without answers. I'm not leaving without the truth." Malik stopped breathing. "That's my grandmother," he whispered. Graham nodded, face tight. Malik pushed the door open. Inside, rows of filing cabinets lined the walls. A young hospital administrator stood frozen, papers clutched to her chest. And there, standing rigid, cane in one hand, purse clutched in the other, was Evelyn Carter, Malik's grandmother. Her gray hair was pulled back neatly. Her back was straight despite the years. Her eyes burned with a fury Malik had only seen once before at his mother's funeral. "Grandma," Malik said hoarsely. Evelyn turned. The moment her eyes landed on him, something cracked. "Malik," she whispered. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and wrapped his arms around her before she could say another word. She stiffened for half a second, then collapsed into him, her strength finally giving way. "You weren't supposed to be here," she murmured into his chest. Malik pulled back just enough to look at her face. "What are you doing, Grandma?" Her eyes flicked to Graham, and the fury returned. "You," she said coldly. Graham flinched. "Mrs. Carter." "Don't," Evelyn snapped. "Don't use my name like you have the right." Malik's head snapped between them. "You know each other." Evelyn laughed bitterly. "Know him? I watched his family destroy mine." Graham lowered his head. "I know." Malik's chest burned. "Grandma, the file. They said you—" "I took it," Evelyn said firmly. "I signed for it. And I'd do it again." Malik stared at her. "Why?" Evelyn's grip tightened on her cane. "Because they were about to bury it forever." Graham looked up sharply. "What?" Evelyn turned to him, eyes blazing. "Your father's lawyers were moving it to a private archive in another state. I got word this morning." Malik's heart pounded. "From who?" Evelyn hesitated. Then she said it. "From your mother." Silence slammed into the room. Malik's voice barely worked. "That's not funny." Evelyn's eyes filled. I'm not joking. Graham froze. Amina is dead. Evelyn shook her head slowly. No, she isn't. Malik staggered back like he'd been hit. No, he whispered. No, no, no. I buried her. Evelyn's voice trembled. You buried what they told us to bury. The administrator shifted nervously. Ma'am, this is highly sensitive. Then listen carefully. Evelyn snapped. Because this young man deserves the truth. Malik's hands shook. Grandma, please. Evelyn reached into her purse and pulled out a thick envelope, worn, creased, like it had been opened and closed 100 times. This, she said, is why your life never made sense. She handed it to Malik. His fingers hesitated before taking it. Inside were photocopies, medical notes, a birth record, a transfer authorization, and at the top of the page, stamped in red, patient status, alive, transferred under protective custody. Malik's vision blurred. What does this mean? He whispered. Evelyn's voice broke. It means your mother didn't abandon you. She was taken. Graham's face went pale. Taken where? Evelyn turned to him with pure venom. By people your father paid. Graham staggered back. No, he told me she left. He lied. Evelyn said. He said she was unstable, that she was a risk, that she'd disappear if she didn't cooperate. Malik's breathing came in ragged bursts. Cooperate with what? Evelyn swallowed hard. With disappearing. The word hit Malik like ice water. They offered her a choice, Evelyn continued. Leave you behind, let you grow up unconnected, or fight them and lose everything, including her life. Graham's voice cracked. And she chose. She chose you, Evelyn said. Malik dropped into a chair, head in his hands. My whole life, he whispered. I thought she left me. Evelyn knelt in front of him despite her aching knees, forcing him to look at her. She loved you so much it almost killed her. Graham's eyes brimmed with tears. Where is she now? Evelyn looked away. That part, she said quietly. I don't know. Malik's head snapped up. What do you mean you don't know? Evelyn's voice shook. The last record says she was moved to a long-term care facility under a false name. After that, nothing. Malik surged his feet. Then we find her. Graham nodded instantly. I'll move heaven and earth. Evelyn rounded on him. You'll do more than that. Yes, Graham said, tears spilling freely now. I will. Malik turned to Graham, rage and hope colliding in his chest. If you're lying about any of this. I'm not, Graham said. And if my family hurt her, then I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. Evelyn straightened slowly. Words don't bring back years. No, Graham agreed, but truth brings justice. Malik looked down at the file in his hands. His life hadn't been an accident. It had been engineered, stolen, and the woman who gave him everything had paid the price. Malik's voice hardened with purpose. Who signed the transfer order? Evelyn pointed to a name at the bottom of the page. Graham's blood ran cold. Because the signature wasn't his father's. It was his. The price of truth. The room felt like it was shrinking. Malik stared at Graham like he was looking at a stranger wearing a familiar face. Someone dangerous not because of what he could do now, but because of what he had already done without realizing it. You erased her, Malik said again, slower this time. Each word landed like a verdict. Graham's knees buckled slightly. He caught himself on the edge of a filing cabinet, breath ragged. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear to you I didn't know. Evelyn's voice was steady but cruelly honest. You didn't ask. Graham flinched. Malik clenched the papers in his hands. The file shook, not because of fear, but because of the effort it took not to tear it in half. You don't get to say I didn't know, Malik snapped. You don't get to hide behind that. Not when my whole life is built on the consequences of your signature. Graham lifted his head slowly, eyes bloodshot. I was 26. My father put the document in front of me and said it was a formality. I'd been drinking. I trusted him. Malik laughed, a hollow, broken sound. Must be nice. Trusting the man who owns the world. Evelyn stepped forward, cane tapping sharply against the tile. That trust cost my daughter her life as she knew it. Graham's voice cracked. Tell me where she is. Please. Evelyn hesitated. The fire in her eyes dimmed into something heavier. I don't know exactly where, she admitted, but I know why she stayed hidden. Malik turned to her. Grandma? Evelyn reached out and touched his face, thumb brushing his cheek like she used to when he was a boy. Because the moment she resurfaced, your father's family would have crushed her again. Graham whispered, My father is dying. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Evelyn's eyes hardened. Power doesn't die when men do. It gets inherited. The hospital administrator cleared her throat nervously. We really can't let these records leave the building. Malik snapped his head toward her. They already did. For decades. The administrator shrank back. Malik turned to Graham, voice cold with resolve. If you're serious, if you're not just here to soothe your conscience, then we do this my way. Graham nodded immediately. Anything. We don't go through lawyers, Malik said. We don't go through PR teams. We don't go through your board. Graham swallowed. That will start a war. Malik stepped closer. Good. I've been fighting one my whole life without knowing it. Evelyn placed a hand on Malik's arm. What are you thinking? Malik looked down at the file again. There are people still being protected by this silence. Doctors, administrators, fixers. If they help hide my mother, they're still hiding someone else. Graham's eyes widened. You want to expose all of it? Yes, Malik said, publicly. Graham hesitated for the first time. Malik noticed. His voice sharpened. There it is. Graham closed his eyes briefly. If this goes public, my company will collapse. Stockholders will flee. The board will... Malik cut him off. Children grow up without parents when men like you protect empires instead of truth. Silence. Then Graham nodded, slow and heavy. You're right. Evelyn studied him carefully. Words are easy. I know, Graham said. That's why I'll start with action. He turned to the administrator. I want copies of every document related to Amina Carter's transfer. Now! The administrator paled. Sir, I can't. Graham's voice went steel. You can, or you can explain to a federal investigator why a sealed file existed without a court order. The administrator swallowed and nodded quickly. I'll get them. She rushed out. Malik stared at Graham. You move fast when it benefits you. Graham didn't argue. I wasted years moving slow. Evelyn folded her arms. Then you'll move faster. Moments later, papers were laid out on the table. More names, more signatures. A web. Malik scanned them, eyes narrowing. This isn't just your family. Graham shook his head grimly. No, it's a system. Malik's phone buzzed. A text from Marisol. Malik, there are men downstairs asking about you. They said they're from building management, but they don't look like it. Malik's blood ran cold. He typed quickly. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. Call me if they don't leave. He turned to Graham. Your people? Graham shook his head sharply. No. Evelyn's grip tightened on her cane. Then they're your father's. Graham's face drained of color. That shouldn't be possible. Evelyn's eyes were fierce. I told you. Power gets inherited. Malik's jaw clenched. They're trying to clean up. Graham pulled out his phone, fingers flying. I'll call my security. No, Malik said. If you do, this turns into a quiet problem again. Graham froze. Then what do we do? Malik folded the file and tucked it under his arm like armor. We make noise. Evelyn smiled grimly. About time. Minutes later, they exited the hospital through the front entrance. Cameras were already there. Someone had tipped them off. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Whitmore, is it true you're involved in a sealed medical scandal? Graham stopped. Malik's heart pounded. This was the moment. Graham turned slowly to the cameras. His voice carried, clear and unprotected. Yes, he said. It's true. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Malik stared at him. Graham continued. For decades, my family used power to erase a woman's existence. Today, that ends. Cameras flashed wildly. Malik stepped forward beside him. This isn't just about one woman, Malik said, voice steady despite the storm inside him. It's about every life treated like collateral damage. Evelyn stood tall between them, unafraid. Then Malik saw a movement across the street. A familiar black sedan. The same type that used to park outside his grandmother's house when he was a kid. His stomach dropped. The back door opened, and a woman stepped out. Thin, pale, older, but standing. Her eyes locked onto Malik's. Time stopped. His breath left him in a rush. Mom, Malik whispered. The woman stared back, tears streaming down her face. And then she collapsed. The man who carried them all. Malik didn't slow down. The men in dark suits moved fast, train coordinated, but they didn't expect desperation sharpened by love. Malik lowered his shoulder and shoved past the first one, sending him stumbling into a camera tripod. A reporter screamed. Flashbulbs exploded like lightning. Move! Malik roared. Hands grabbed at his arms. Someone tried to twist him back. No! Malik snarled, ripping free. Not again. He dropped to his knees beside the woman who had collapsed on the pavement. Amina, older, thinner, but unmistakable. Her face, lined with time and suffering, was a face Malik had searched for in strangers his entire life. The face he'd imagined in dreams. The face he'd cursed for leaving him and begged for forgiveness from in the same breath. Mom, he said again, voice breaking completely now. Mom, it's me. Her eyelids fluttered. Her lips trembled. Malik, she whispered. The sound of his name, from her mouth shattered something deep inside him. He gathered her gently into his arms, instinctively careful, the same way he had carried Lena up the stairs, the same way he always carried people when the world refused to. I'm here, Malik said, rocking her slightly. I've got you. The men in suits hesitated. Graham Whitmore stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Get away from her, he said. One of the men sneered. Mr. Whitmore, with respect, this doesn't concern you anymore. Graham laughed, not the polished laugh of a billionaire. The broken, furious laugh of a man done running. Oh, it concerns me, he said, because if you touch her again, every name on that file becomes public before sunset. The man stiffened. Graham continued, voice rising so the cameras caught every word. You hit a woman. You stole a mother from her child. And today, you don't get to clean this up quietly. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police, not private security, not fixers. Real police. Evelyn Carter stood tall beside Malik, her cane planted firmly, like a line drawn in the earth. I told you, she said coldly to the men. You don't own us anymore. The men backed away slowly, calculating, then melted into the crowd. Malik barely noticed. All he saw was his mother. Amina's hand trembled as she reached up and touched his face, her fingers tracing his jaw like she was afraid he'd disappear if she blinked. You're so big now, she murmured. I used to imagine this every night. Malik's throat closed. Why didn't you come back? He whispered, the last wound finally bleeding. Tears streamed down her cheeks. They said they'd hurt you. They showed me pictures. Schools. Parks. They said if I ever resurfaced, you'd pay for it. Malik pressed his forehead to hers. I grew up thinking you didn't want me. Amina sobbed. I lived because of you. The words hit him harder than anything else ever had. Paramedics pushed through the crowd. Malik didn't resist when they gently took Amina from his arms and laid her on a stretcher. He walked beside her, one hand gripping the rail, refusing to let go. Graham stood nearby, pale and shaking. Put her under my name, he told the paramedics. Private room. Best care. No interference. Malik looked up sharply. You don't get to buy this. Graham met his gaze, eyes full of remorse. Then let me protect it. Malik hesitated, then nodded once. Do that. As they loaded Amina into the ambulance, a reporter shouted, Malik, What does justice look like now? Malik turned, eyes steady. Justice, he said, looks like truth in daylight, and consequences that don't hide behind money. The ambulance doors closed. The sirens faded. Hours later, in a quiet hospital room washed in soft light, Malik sat between two women who had shaped his life in different ways. Evelyn slept in a chair, exhaustion finally claiming her. Amina lay in bed, fragile but alive, oxygen humming softly. Malik held her hand, afraid to let go. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted quietly. "I don't know how to be a son to someone I just found." Amina smiled weakly. "You already are." The door opened. Graham stepped inside, slower now, stripped of authority and armor. "I turned everything over to federal investigators," he said. "My father's foundation, the shell companies, the hospital board, all of it." Malik didn't look at him. "That won't give me back my childhood." "I know," Graham said. "Nothing will." Silence stretched. Then Malik spoke, voice low but honest. "You don't get forgiveness today." Graham nodded. "I don't expect it. But," Malik continued, "you get a chance to do something right tomorrow. And the day after that." Graham's breath hitched. "Whatever you ask." Malik finally met his eyes. "You fix the systems that let people like you erase people like my mother. You make stairs disappear for kids like Lena. You don't put your name on it. You don't make yourself the hero." Graham nodded, tears spilling freely. "I will." Weeks passed. The scandal exploded. Executives resigned. Doctors lost licenses. Hidden settlements surfaced. Families came forward, other names, other stories, other stolen years. Graham Whitmore stepped down as CEO. Not quietly, publicly. He funded an independent foundation run by survivors, not himself. He testified. He cooperated. He took responsibility. And Malik? Malik went back to work. Not as a doorman. As a building accessibility coordinator. Hired by demand, not charity. He made sure elevators worked. Ramps were built. Policies changed. The first day Lena saw him, in a suit instead of uniform, she grinned. "You still carry people?" she asked. Malik smiled. "Only when they need it." Amina recovered slowly. Therapy, sunlight, laughter that sounded rusty, but real. One evening, Malik walked her up a short set of steps outside a cafe. Careful, patient, unhurried. Amina squeezed his arm. "You've always carried the world," she said softly. "I'm sorry you had to." Malik looked at her, at his grandmother watching from the doorway, at Lena waving from inside. He thought of all the stairs he climbed without knowing why. "I know now," he said. The camera of the world finally pulled back. Not on a billionaire, not on a scandal, but on a man who refused to let anyone be invisible again.